The Professor Oak's Challenge, a challenge that sees you catch and evolve every Pokemon available before each gym. Taking inspiration from Johnston and Chaotic Meatball is something I've always wanted to attempt myself, so why not do it and record my run? There's only 2 rules, which are complete as much of the Pokedex as possible before each gym. Yes, that means having a fully evolved starter before Brock, and no glitches or exploits, which is obviously the best way to play. I'm going to add an extra challenge for myself too, to spice it up. If this takes me over 100 in-game hours to complete, I'll be giving away 10 of my own personal shiny Pokemon. Yes, my precious shinies are on the line. Make sure you watch until the end to find out how to win one if I fail. How quickly can I do this? Hopefully before 100 hours. Let's find out. So our journey starts with naming our character, and what better name than Professor Oak. We load into the world with a huge daunting task on our hands, but we've got this. We choose Bulbasaur as our starter from Professor Oak, as it evolves into Venusaur at level 32 rather than 36 like the other starters, cutting down on grinding time by a lot. After a not so convincing win over our rival, we can now go get the Pokedex. This is important as we don't want it to glitch out, which could be an issue, but it won't. We hand the parcel back to the Professor and he gives us our Pokedex, and that's our first entry. We can now buy some Pokeballs and catch our first 2 Pokemon. On Route 1 we can catch Pidgey and Rattata, bringing our total dex count to 3. We now head west of Viridian City, and here in the grass we can add a Nidoran male and a Spearow to the Pokedex. We also catch a second Spearow for a trade later on. The reason I haven't included Nidoran female yet is because I couldn't find one for ages. There's no way it's a 5% encounter rate. However, as soon as I went to record how long this was taking, voila, first encounter of course. This brings the total dex count to a solid 6, and it's time to take on the forest. This is quite funny, I actually failed catching a Kakuna, and only my second encounter is a 5% Pikachu. We luckily catch it. Now we can catch a Weedle too. We also catch a Caterpie and a Kakuna, and finally a Metapod. This brings the total count to 11 encounters and the max I can catch before Brock. Now onto the best and possibly the worst part about this challenge, the grinding. I choose to do the Metapod line first, and boy is it painful. We literally have to switch into Pidgey, kill in 1 hit, sometimes not even in 1, and we get poisoned, which means going back to town to restore ourselves. The max XP we can get per Pokemon is 60. Yep, 60. And some we need thousands. So time to get started. Anyhow, while grounding up Metapod, Bulbasaur actually evolves into Ivysaur at level 16, bringing the dex count to 12. After a lot, and I mean a lot of grinding, we evolve our Metapod into Butterfree at level 10. Kakuna then evolves into Beedrill at level 10, Spearow into Fearow at level 20. Then the Nidorans was honestly not bad. They learned some good damage moves, and this went fairly quick. So we evolved Nidoran male into Nidorino at level 16, and Nidoran female into Nidorina at level 16 too. And finally, Rattata into Raticate at level 20. That's it for the easier grinds. Now it's onto the hardest and the longest. We need to do Pidgey and Ivysaur. This is going to be a long one. Not that it's hard, but it's mind-numbingly boring. With that, we evolve our Pidgey to Pidgeot at level 18, then after many hours to Pidgeot at level 36. After many more hours, we can finally grind up Ivysaur to level 32, where it evolves into Venusaur, bringing our dex total to 21, and the max we can register for this section of the game. In total, this took me 59 hours and 38 minutes of in-game time. Yeah, this is taking me a lot longer than I thought it would, but now we can progress. As you can imagine, Brock is no problem for our level 32 Venusaur. In fact, most of the battles in this game won't be a problem. With the Boulder Badge in our possession, it now opens up plenty more routes, which means a lot more Pokemon to catch. Now, money's always tight in these games, but on the way to Route 3, we battle some mandatory trainers, and Pidgeot makes short work of them anyway. But this solves our Pokeball problem for a little bit anyway, and we buy some more. Here we can catch a Jigglypuff in the grass too. If we head north from Route 3, we can also buy a Magikarp from the salesman in the Pokemon Center, so we can start grinding it straight away, rather than wait to fish for it later on. We now tackle Mount Moon as well. Here we can catch a Zubat, a Geodude, and on the lower floors we can catch a Paris and a Clefairy, bringing the total dex count to 27. On our way through Mount Moon, I choose the Helix fossil. I knew if I didn't say what I chose, you'd ask. Actually, no, I took the Dome fossil. Sorry, my dry bread. After leaving Mount Moon, we catch some more Pokemon in the grass on Route 4. Here we can catch an Ekans. We then arrive at Cerulean City, and after picking up 2 Moonstones in Mount Moon, we can evolve Nidorina into Nidoqueen and Nidorino into Nidoking, bringing the total dex count to a nice round 30 Pokemon. If we head up north after Cerulean City, we can take on Nugget Bridge. Here my Magikarp, thanks to grinding in Mount Moon 2, evolves into Gyarados, right after we beat the Team Rocket member. Now we can also catch a Abra and an Oddish, bringing the count to 33 Pokemon. I go and find a Pokemon in a house that's actually someone called Bill. He needs our help after becoming human. After we help him out, he gives us the SS Ann ticket, which will certainly help with the next XP grind coming up. But now we can go through the Burgled house to get to another route where we can catch a few more things. On Route 5, we can catch a Mankey. In Vermilion City, we can trade the second Spearow we caught all the way at the start for a Farfetch too. If we head east to Route 11, we can add a Drowsy to our team. In Diglett Cave, we can catch, yep, you guessed it, a Diglett. And then as we come out of Rock Tunnel, if we head to this house, we can trade an Abra for the only Mr. Mime in Kanto's existence, apparently, bringing the total dex count to 38, and that's the max we can catch for this section of the game. So it's grind time, and honestly, we have quite a lot of trainers to fight. I head all the way back to take on every single trainer I missed on the way to get the most XP possible. While doing this, I evolved Zubat into Golbat at level 22. While completely in the zone, I forgot Abra evolved into Kadabra at 16, so I didn't record the evolution, but here's the Pokedex, and that puts us at Dex number 40. I finish off with the SS Ann, and by patting the captain on the back, he gives us a HM for cut. With all the trainers defeated, there's only one place to grind, and that's probably the best place too, Diglett's Cave. Honestly, they're super frail and give a lot of XP considering it's a heaven sent to the Viridian Forest nightmare. While grinding, I actually came across a Dugtrio which we caught, so now we don't need to level up Diglett, so I'm happy about that. We then evolve Ekans to Arbok at level 22, Paris to Parasect at level 24, I didn't realise how good Parasect used to look actually, Geodude to Graveler at level 25, Mankey to Primeape at level 28, and finally Drowsy into Hypno at level 26. This brings the total to 47 Pokemon, and the max we can register at this point of the game. This now opens up probably the biggest amount of encounters we need to catch in the game. Now I know it shows Clefable and Wigglytuff still, but I chose to do the Nidoking and Queen, so we'll come back to them when we can get some more Moonstones. So we go back to Cerulean City and take on Misty, and as you can imagine, it's a very easy fight, and we pick up our second gym badge. Now the game's open up, and you can see on the right, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of Pokemon to catch. I get the HM for cut from the Professor for registering 10 Pokemon, even though we've done way over that as well, and we grab a Moonstone for our troubles too. Back at Pewter City, we can speak to the Professor in the museum and also get that old Amber, which we'll need for later on. On the grass for Route 10, we can add a Voltorb to our team too. We switch train it on the trainers before Rock Tunnel, and in Rock Tunnel we can catch a Machop and an Onix, bringing the total count to 51 Pokemon. We leave Rock Tunnel and we head to Lavender Town. If we just skip everything here and go straight to the next round, in the grass we can add a Growlithe to the total too. In Celadon City, there's a few things for us to do. The first thing I do is purchase all the evolutionary stones I need for this run, and we evolve Gloom to Vileplume, Pikachu to Raichu, and Growlithe to Arcanine, putting the total at 55 Pokemon. We head through the back entrance and head to the top floor. Here we can get a free, and that we totally didn't just steal, Eevee from this person's house, and we can use a Firestone to immediately evolve it into Flareon. I chose Flareon as I think a lot of people always go for Vaporeon or Jolteon, and I love fire types. Now for another terrible grind. For some reason, Game Freak added gambling into Pokemon, and here we need to get 200,000 Pokédollars, which just isn't happening, or 9,999 coins. So after grabbing the coin case and begging people for free coins, we sit and play this game for a long time, until eventually we have the max amount of coins, and then we can get a Porygon. While in Celadon City, it's a good time to take out the trainers in the Rocket Hideout for some XP, and also we can get our final Moonstone there too. We beat Giovanni really easy with our overpowered Pidgeot, and we get the Sylph Scope. With the final Moonstone we can get from the Rocket Hideout, we can now finally evolve Jigglypuff to Wigglytuff. And if we head west to the city and use Cut, we can access a small patch of grass. Here we can catch Doduo, putting the total on 60 Pokemon. It's best to take on the Lavender Town section of the game now. Here we can fight our rival again, and with the Sylph Skull we can now catch Ghastly and a Cubo. While grinding, Voltorb evolved into an Electrode, and we found a Haunter too, bringing the total count to 64 Pokemon. Heading south we can play the Pokeflute and we get attacked by Snorlax. I know what it's like to be grumpy when you wake up, but sheesh, he didn't want to stay in the ball at all and nearly wiped out my whole team, but eventually we caught him, and that's a solid 65. While grinding on the trainers on our way to Fuchsia City, Cubone evolves into Marowak at level 28, and then in Fuchsia City we can grab the Good Rod, and now we can go on a catching spree of Kanto. All the way back at Vermilion City, we can catch a Shelder with a Super Rod, and then immediately evolve it with a Water Stone into Cloyster. Then we can also catch a Poliwag, a Krabby, and a Goldeen. All the way back to Fuchsia City now. In the grass, we can add a Venonat to the team, and a Ditto. And then if we head south, we can fish up a Horsey too. We also catch a Staryu. To the west of Fuchsia, we can catch a Tentacruel, and while travelling to Route 10, Dolduo evolves to Doldrio. And on Route 10, we also catch 2 Poliwhirls. One will be for a trade later on. We also catch a Slowpoke too. I decided before the Safari Zone antics to use my last 2 Water Stones to evolve Staryu into Starmie and Poliwhirl into Poliwrath too. It's time for the Safari Zone. For a low price of $500, you can catch as many as you want. Here we catch an Execute, a Rhydon, and a Dratini after a long time of back and forthing. We can also add a Cypher, a Venomoth, we can fish up a Psyduck, and finally catch a Tauros. We have a few more things to finish up back at Cerulean City. This is where we can trade our second Poliwhirl for a Jinx, and we can evolve our Execute into a Executor with a Leaf Stone. While grinding and battling trainers as I go throughout Kanto, we evolve Slowpoke into Slowbro, and now we can trade Slowbro for a Lickitung. In Fuchsia City, we can surf in this man's backyard to steal all his water types as well. Well, mainly one, and that's Seeking. We then give the Gold Teeth to the Warden in return for the Strength HM. Now we can give the guard some fresh water, and we can go through to Saffron City. Here I do the Fighting Dojo. Since having Dratini, I've took him through Cycling Road and every trainer I possibly could. At level 30 in the dojo, he evolves into Dragonair. Then we beat the Dojo Master and we get Hitmonlee. And now we do the Rocket Hideout too. There's plenty of trainers for XP, and here we can get a free Lapras. After beating down on Giovanni, we finally get a Master Ball too. With all that done, there's only one thing left to do, and that's grind up the remaining Pokemon. It honestly doesn't take me that long, because I still have a few more trainers to beat, and just east of Fuchsia City, I can grind there as well. We evolve Rhyhorn into Rhydon at level 42, Krabby to Kingler at level 28, Machop to Machoke at level 28, Horsey to Seadra at level 32, Tentacool to Tentacruel at level 30, and Psyduck to Golduck at level 32. This leaves the last Pokemon Dragonair, and perhaps the hardest to level into a Dragonite. It does take me forever, but eventually I became numb to it. I didn't want to do the last 2 levels, so I used my remaining rare candies and evolved Dragonair to Dragonite at level 55. This gives us a whopping total of 105 Pokemon, and the max we can have at this point of the game. We only have 2 gyms done as well, that's honestly insane. Now as you can see, there is only a few Pokemon to catch and level up now on the right, compared to the previous sections. However, we have some story stuff to catch up with, like we only have 2 badges for one. So first we go and challenge Colgate, as we are literally outside. With a Dragonite, this is a super easy fight, and that's our 3rd gym badge. Now we head to Erica's gym, where an old man really enjoys it because of all the women that he's staring at. Okay dude? Our Dragonite makes short work of her too, and that's gym badge number 4. Being able to surf opens up the power plant to us as well, so we surf on Dragonite there. Here we can catch a Magnemite, a Magneton, and an Electabuzz that's supposed to be 5%, but this took me forever too. Oh yeah, and we also catch a legendary bird, Zapdos, that I caught in just one Great Ball. Heading back home to Pallet Town, if we surf down towards Cinnabar Island, on the patch of grass we can catch a Tangela too. Cinnabar Island, we finally get to restore our fossils. I restore the Dome Fossil to Kabuto and the Old Amber into Aerodactyl. And finally in the Pokemon Mansion we can catch Koffing, Ponyta, Grimer, and Weezing. If we then sail east of Cinnabar Island, we can catch our last Pokemon for this part, and that's a Seal. All that's left to do is grind up the remaining ones. Honestly, the grinding now is not too bad. We have all the trainers that use water types, and we have a Zapdos, so we just sit and mindlessly plug away. I've gotten a lot better at grinding since the awful Viridian Forest days, so after several hours we can evolve Kabuto into Kabutops at level 40, Seal to Dugong at level 44, Grimer to Muck at level 38, and finally Ponyta to Rapidash at level 40. That brings the dex total to 121, and the maximum we could have at this point in the game, but there is one more to catch. Now it's time to hunt the legendary bird Articuno before we progress any further with the story. With our first Ultra Ball, actually I catch it, that's 2 legendaries in just 2 balls. That's lucky, bringing the total dex count now to 122, and the max we can register for this part of the game. Now we have a lot of story stuff to do, well, gym badges mainly, so we finish off them and we get the remaining badges and defeat Giovanni last. This now opens up Victory Road, and there's one more Pokemon we can catch before the Elite Four, that's Moltres. That's every Pokemon we can catch before we take on the Elite Four and the Champion. We breeze through all the fights thanks to having the 3 legendary birds and high level Pokemon like Dragonite. So we beat our rival, and Professor Oak calls us Oak too, which is weird, and we're now champion, and that's the game beat, we're finished. But not quite yet, there's one more Pokemon left to catch. If we head to Cerulean Cave and make our way to the deepest part, we can catch our final Pokemon, Mewtwo. It's a super hard fight with strategy, and I actually just saved my Master Ball, so it's an easy catch. And with that, we've completed the Professor's Oak Challenge in Red by catching a total of 124 Pokemon, and that's a max we have available to us without being able to trade and version exclusives. I save and check the time. Did we go over 100 hours? Of course we did. 135 hours and 56 minutes it took me, and that means we lose 10 of my shiny Pokemon. If you want to win one of these, just comment down below which Pokemon is your favourite out of the ones available in my boxes, and I'll pick some winners. If you want to see more challenges like this, subscribe and leave a like. As always, if you're still here, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.